Hey guys, it's Horsey and today I'm going to show you how to film a Schleich movie. And just a quick disclaimer before we start guys, this is not a rule book, this is a guide. Please make your movie however you want and also tag me, I would love to see them. Now let's get into it. So the first important part is setting. You can either film outdoors like this, or you can film indoors like this. There is good and bad for both, but indoor filming is a lot easier, so I think we're going to start on some stuff like storytelling, and we're going to go indoors. When I'm choosing my characters, honestly guys, I don't think too much about it, but there are some key things that I do think about before I pick a horse. So the first important thing is, can I age this horse? Can I have a young version of this horse and an old version of this horse? So like this girl here, she can be a lot of different foals. She's got a lot of choice, so I can choose between lots of different models to use. Whereas this one, because I painted him myself and he was a very unique colour, I couldn't really do any flashbacks or show his younger self because I would have had to paint an entire new model. So yeah. But then that goes on to my second key point, and that is your horse has to be unique. If you want a main character in a story, you might want to make sure that no one else has used that horse as their main character, or at least try not to. This guy is a really common example of a horse that I see in a lot of movies. It's because he's a very realistic mold, he's a very simple colour, but a lot of people use him as their main character, so I probably wouldn't choose to use him. However, that goes on to my third key point, which is the horse should be realistic looking. This girl is a great example of that. So for the first point, she's a very simple colour. That's great for me, great to find a foal that looks like her. Second point is, she's not used very often. She's quite a rare model, so most people haven't used her in films. But the problem is, the third point, she's not very realistic. So I wouldn't use her as a main character in a film. This collector model would be a great choice of a horse to use because, well, he's pretty rare, he's a simple colour, and he's incredibly realistic, so this would be a great main character. However, all of these points go completely out the window if you just like the horse. This next part is the story, and the good news, it's yours. You can write it however you want. But there are sort of general things every story needs, so it's got to have a beginning, it's got to have a middle, and it's got to have an end. I know it sounds really silly, but sometimes I forget to even do it myself. So your beginning should be introducing the characters, the theme of the story, say if it's a science fiction story or if it's a romance story, that should be clear in the beginning. And then there should be what's called as an inciting incident. So that's a big word, but basically all that means is something has to happen that changes the course of everyday life in your story. This could mean you start off with the herd, then a horse goes missing, and you spend the rest of the story trying to find that horse. That's pretty much the plot of The Network if you think about it. Sometimes when I make a series, I don't always know how it's going to end. That can be tricky because it then goes into this happens and this happens and this happens. It's just a lot better when you have an idea of where your story is going and where you want to take the characters. But if your story has a beginning, a middle and an end, it can be about whatever you want, it will be an interesting story. So now we've done a bit of filming inside, we're going to do filming outside, camera angles, all the practical stuff. Filming outside looks super cool, but it does bring its own set of problems, like you got background noise. I always have to edit in my audio afterwards, but then you've got rain, you've got wind here in Britain. If you're somewhere hot, you've got to contend with the sun, maybe even animals, maybe even people. Filming outside is a completely new challenge, but it's so worth it. I love filming in the natural light and going to some beautiful places. But I like going on lots of walks. I'm an outdoors sort of person, so that's what's most fun for me. If you're an indoor person, you can also make it work as long as you've got good lighting. So now onto a really important part that you guys are obviously going to really enjoy. It's camera angles. If you film from above, yes, it can look really cool for a big dramatic scene, but if you film all of your shots from above, it can look very unrealistic. But now look how cool it looks, just when you get down to the eye level of the horse. When you film from down here, look at that difference. That horse looks so much more natural. Here's how I'd film a scene of a horse running around a pasture. You don't want to just film like this from above, it just looks like you're not even trying really. It only works if you want to do it for a split second to show maybe a jump or an obstacle in the distance, otherwise, don't do it guys, don't do it. You want to do some shots of the horse's body like this, and then also the horse's face or upper body as they're performing the action like this. If you want a character to seem big and powerful, an interesting angle you could use is from below and then pan the camera upwards like this. Next, if you want to make a character look small, afraid, or just some kind of emotion, you maybe take it from slightly above, not completely above the character, but slightly above, and just zoom in on their face like this. So those are just a couple of camera angles you can use in your film. When you have two characters together, kinda goes without saying, you should film the one who's talking, unless you want to record the emotion on the other character's face. Even though they don't obviously move, you can still try and create emotion. If you want to be really advanced, you can even switch up the angles mid-conversation, but that would mean you need to edit in the recording later, and well, that brings us nicely into editing. Editing is probably one of the most important parts in filming that I don't like as much as filming and gets overlooked by me a lot. So now I'm going to show you guys a scene from a movie that I ended up not releasing, but you've got to tell me which one you prefer. So I'm going to start off with the unedited, completely raw, no audio version. Now let's add in some sound effects, some music, and see how different that scene looks. I do all of my editing on CapCut, which is free, I believe, although I accidentally paid for a subscription, so now I have CapCut Pro, but I've always done it for free. You can just get it on your phone, and it's super simple to use, so that's what I use. No gatekeeping here, guys. There are lots of tutorials online, but if you'd like, I can make one in the future as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. That was my super quick, super simple tutorial on how to make a horse movie.